Surrounding the coronavirus, there are confirmed cases in nearly 30 countries and more than 2,100 people dead. Among those fatalities, 2 are passengers on that cruise ship in Japan. You can see it there live as we learn more about the conditions on board and the crew's inability to successfully quarantine, even as more passengers are being allowed to return home. Meanwhile, in South Korea, the number of cases there, they've spiked as the first virus-related death there, as the mayor of a city of millions warning residents to simply stay home. And some good news this evening for 63 Americans who were under quarantine at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego. They were just bussed off of the base and are now free to go, while 2 people from their flight are being treated for confirmed cases. But we start with our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell in Japan with more.
Tonight, this isolation unit in Spokane, Washington, used for the first time to care for 4 patients with COVID-19. The former passengers from the Diamond Princess taken by ambulance today from Travis Air Force Base.
We have a specialized team that trains and drills regularly to safely care for patients in situations just as these.
It comes as we learn of the first 2 deaths from the cruise ship, a Japanese couple in their 80s who were hospitalized days ago. Passengers who tested negative for the virus now trickling off the ship, but now a warning from the Japanese doctor who slammed his government's handling of the quarantine.
These people who were disembarked should be monitored for next 14 days. Possibly avoiding the contact with other people.
But those passengers can't return to the US for 2 weeks. When he left the ship, Carl Goldman thought he was healthy, but was hit with a high fever on the flight home.
We can go for days feeling fine. It hits very, very, very fast.
He's now being treated for the virus in this biocontainment unit in Omaha.
We could have been exposing so many people to the virus not knowing we had it.
Over 7 weeks, COVID-19 has spread to 29 countries and territories, killing more than 2,000 and infecting more than 75,000, mostly in China. Tonight, 2.5 million residents in one Korean city ordered to stay indoors after a woman who authorities called a super spreader infected dozens in her own church.
And Ian Pannell joins us now live from Japan. Ian, with 2 dead, I imagine a great deal of scrutiny is on that quarantine effort.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of scrutiny of it anyway, not least because some of those passengers who were cleared, some of the Americans amongst them, were then found to actually have the virus. So questions about the quarantine procedures being carried out on the ship. And also, we'll remember there was the Japanese doctor who managed to sneak on board. He also raised concerns about what he called the red zones and the green zones. In other words, whether people who had the virus were being kept separately. So there's a lot of unhappiness. The Japanese authorities, meanwhile, are advising some of those passengers who are now leaving the ship to self-quarantine for 14 days. But it's not obligatory. So it's entirely possible that people passing through this airport here in Tokyo could still have the virus. So lots of questions unanswered and lots of concerns.
And Ian, I imagine lots of concern across Asia right now as we're seeing a number of cases spike in certain regions.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, China still remains overwhelmingly the epicenter where the vast majority of deaths have been. But the news coming out of Korea is deeply concerning for many people there. What we understand is that one woman who's been described by authorities as being a super spreader managed to infect as many as 40 people, certainly dozens of people, in her own church. Now, she belongs to a particular type of Christianity. She's been described as a cult by some. But either way, the way that they practice their religion involves them all sitting on the floor in fairly close confines, and she seems to pass this virus to a large number of other people, and that part of South Korea has now been put under special government management. It's not clear whether that's a quarantine or not, but there are 2 parts of Korea that are now receiving a lot of special attention and extra facilities, essentially with the South Korean authorities saying, look, originally we were alert to people coming into the country through airports like this. Now we're going to have to monitor what's going on inside the country to try and stop the spread of the virus. And I think many people have always said that although China was the epicenter, as time passed, although the numbers started to slow down, that this would be the risk, that there would be a significant outbreak in other countries, and that would then start to spread.